Good evening, folks, on this fine snowy evening. It is coming down out there. Man, I went out to bring the trash can in. Not only is it cold, but it's like the snow. It was up to, it's pretty far up on my leg. I was kind of impressed. I forgot about these good old fashioned Midwest Windsors. Anyway, how y'all doing tonight? You good? Hopefully everybody's out there staying warm, keeping safe to the best of your ability. Um, you know, Honestly, anytime I start to shoot a podcast, I've never settled on a topic to really speak on, and I sort of gather it in the seconds prior to, you know, hit and go live, or so. I don't know. I don't do a whole lot of preparation in that way. I like to be authentic and free flowing and honest. And I think that a lot of times when people are given the opportunity to sort of dwell on their inner story and how they're going to project to others, that it has a tendency to make them disingenuous. And they become very good at being rehearsed liars, but not very good at speaking authentically and freely in the moment. And that's what I like to call, flow state. At least that's the way it works for me. When I hit a point of authentic conveyance, there's no hitch in my ability to express myself to whoever I'm speaking to or through whatever medium I happen to be imposing my will on at the time. So I like that. I like that. Tonight's topic is the slave mind, the outlook of competition and scarcity. All right. Now, I speak a lot about the slave mind these days. Slave mind is the aggressor parasite mind. It's basically the narcissist. It's the person who is so addicted to self-idealizing and so addicted to their inner story, this place of retreat that they make sense of the world through, that they necessarily feel compelled to go around barking at and breaking down any and everything that threatens their identity. As I've mentioned on several occasions, the identity is the collection of meanings, stories, symbols, beliefs, habits, practices, ideals, behaviors, and social effects and adornments that, we sort of collect throughout the course of our lives and seek to self-actualize through. The identity is basically the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. Okay? Now, everybody who operates through the slave mind, they're basically living in a mental state of retreat. They're not facing and dealing with reality. They're instead trying to, or hoping for all of reality to fit into their identity and or the collection of meanings and agreements they've made with themselves about how things are in the world around them. And I probably could have said that a little bit better, but that's what it basically boils down to. The slave is the drone. It's the, uh-oh. All right, so cool. We sort of dipped out there for a second, but the slave mind is the drone mind. It's the mind of the aggressor parasite. Uh-oh. We're having some delay issues here, folks. Yeah, for some reason my bit rate is like really, really low right now, so I'm just gonna keep speaking. My frame rate, it keeps going in and out right now. I think it has to do with the storm outside. So, if for whatever reason I'm not, or go out, then it's like I'll try to pick back up wherever I left off. But again, the slave mind. The slave mind is basically, it's the aggressor parasite mind. It's the drone. It's the social drone. It's the person who has no true sense of autonomy and who, instead of trying to realize the truth of who, how, and what they are, they instead try to make all of reality fit into their inner story, to try and make everyone and everything fit within their identity and or the collection of meanings that they've agreed to. Okay? So, the slave, it doesn't have to do with social status. It doesn't have to do with color of skin. It doesn't have to do with, what social category you come from or what gender or anything. It has to do with the outlook, how you approach life. A slave approaches life from what I refer to as the poor mind. And allow me to explain that. When you don't have a real sense of purpose in life, and your sense of purpose is directly tied to how you feel in relation to someone else and or what you're experiencing in relation to someone else, then you think like a slave. You are never focused on your own experience long enough to elevate it. Your entire focus is on making sure that you are superior to someone else. Go into any poor area you can find in the world, and you'll see people dripped out in all this jewelry and all these social effects and all this adornment, trying to look important, because within the context of the world around them and the identity they've assumed and or that was assigned to them within the world around them, the only thing that matters is status. The only thing that matters is not being at the bottom, feeling superior to others, and not feeling inferior to others. And it doesn't just happen in poor areas. You can go to the top of society, and you have all these people amassing untold amounts of resources, trying to win in a contest of who can capture the most resources. Slaves prioritized competition over betterment. It's very much like the story arc of Dragon Ball Z. You got Vegeta and you got Goku. Goku is a fully realized individual. He does what he wants. He basically builds his strength up by testing his own limits and trying to find and break these barriers that exist within him. Conversely, you got Vegeta. Vegeta has a slave's mind. I'm the prince of all Saiyans. I'm important. I'm superior to you, Kakarot. He's never actually trying to improve for the sake of improvement. He's just trying to be better than other people. That's how slaves think. I don't want to be better just to be better. I don't want to actually improve. I just want to be better than them. If you look at people in the United States, especially when it comes to race, you have all these people who work. They fight tooth and nail. You have a lot of white people who fight tooth and nail to make sure that they remain in a better position socially than black people. Not even realizing that they outnumber black people 5-1, outpower them 200-1, and outgun them 200-1 already. They're fighting not for their own advancement, but instead to keep someone beneath them. It's the slave mind. 100% of the people who dislike me, they think like slaves. They're narcissists. They would all argue, oh, you're so full of yourself. But on the reverse end of that, it's not about me being full of myself. They're mad because I won't humble myself for them. How dare you not humble yourself for me? The only person who goes around expecting other people to humble themselves for the perceiver's own benefit are narcissists, are people who think like slaves, cowardly ideologues. Make yourself small so that I can be big. There isn't enough attention for both of us. There's not enough resources for all of us. There's only enough for me. There's only enough for me. If I get enough resources, I might give you some. If for whatever reason I feel it benefits me. What is the personality type of a cowardly ideologue? What's the personality type of the slave mind? They're scared. They remain in a perpetual state of fear. Sure, they may pass it off as bravado. It may come across as chest thumping. I'm not scared. I'll show you how tough I am. I can punch and I can kick and I can do violence and yeah. Yeah, you do all that. But at the end of the day, you carry all that animus to people and things that aren't even in your lane, because simply being in their lane and you perceiving them in their lane doing what they're doing is too much for you to bear. Simply being what they are threatens your inner story. It makes you question the world around you and your place and value within it. In my last podcast, or one of my last podcasts, I was talking about the difference between aggressive betas and true alphas. And it ties into this subject well, because aggressive betas, they're going to be your slave-minded. They're going to be your Vegetas. I have to be superior to you. I have to be better than you, Kakarot. It's scary. They're weak. All that chest thumping for what? Aggressive betas, cowardly ideologues, narcissists, they're all of the slave mind. The slave mind. For instance, I want you to think about this. One of the most popular, when it comes to thinking about, or even discourse on slavery, African Americans always pop to the forefront of the conversation. The reason for this being is because it's a 400-year, the most recent 400-year slavery. And the worst part about it is the country that enslaved them never stopped bullying them. So it's and then also never stopped rehashing all of these horrors and atrocities that they put these people through. They never stopped rehashing it. They never acknowledged it. They never apologized for it. They never anything. But the reason why I even mention, American slavery is because you think about the difference between house niggas versus field niggas, right? When you had a person who worked outside in the field, they wanted to just be free. They wanted to live on their own terms. Some of them, a lot of them. But if you gave a lot of those slaves any sort of position of power over other slaves, they would cling to that power over pursuing freedom. Same thing with the house. People who lived in the house, they didn't see themselves as slaves. They saw themselves as privileged. Why? Because they had someone to look down on. I'm superior to them. Which means that I am not a slave. I'm just working my way up. You have all these people out here who live in a country that literally robs them of their livelihood every day. And not just the country, around the globe. They rob them of their livelihood every day. And instead of fighting to get more and keep more of the labor they trade away for resources to survive on, they'd much rather make sure that they have more than someone else. All these people fighting against raising the minimum wage. Oh, don't dare you raise the minimum wage. Why? And I saw a meme about this the other day, and I want to remark on it. Because raising the minimum wage puts the underlings too close to those who are being underpaid at the management level. But cowards, aggressive betas, slaves, They would rather punch down than stand up. 100% of the people who don't like me, 100% of the people who don't like me think like slaves. It doesn't matter what social class they come from. It doesn't matter what intelligence agency they work for. It doesn't matter what culture or background they come from. You can be black living next door to me, or you can be white somewhere over in the UK. If you don't like me, you don't like me because you have a slave's mind. You need me to be small so that you can be big. That is what a cowardly ideologue is. It's an aggressor drone. It's an aggressive parasite. You know, I started writing something a little earlier, and I'm just going to read this because it's like I don't feel like trying to recall it word for word. But if the only way for me to get your attention or get respect from you is by pandering to you or scaring you, then I don't want your attention or respect. Why? Because that's how you deal with slaves. That's how you talk to slaves. You either scare them or exploit their desires to feel powerful and important. You don't actually consider the thoughts, experiences, or perspectives of slaves. You talk past slaves, not to them. Slaves are just dispensable things you use to get other desired things. What can a slave tell anyone who thinks above the level of self-interest? What knowledge can a slave have that performs above and beyond the scopes of power and consumption? Slaves idealize money. Why? Because money is liquid authority. They think in terms of power dynamics. They think in terms of power chains and their place within the respective power chains. A slave doesn't care if the world around it is burning down as long as they're sitting on a throne when it does. These are dangerous, dangerous individuals. Not even individuals, drones. Because what motivates them towards life is the trifecta of corruption, which again, narcissism, competition, and aggression. If you have the slave mind, these three things, triune, they're what guide and inform your outlook on life. Just being scared all the time, wary of who or whatever will come along and interrupt the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. I like to deal with real people. Fully realized individuals, or those who are aspiring to become fully realized individuals. If the only thing that you want to do is feel important as compared to others, and impose your will on others, and injure others, and punish others for your amusement and satisfaction, if the only thing that matters to you is how important you are in comparison to others, then we have very little to talk about then, don't we? Your mind is undeveloped. You're not mentally disciplined. You're not emotionally disciplined. What drives you towards life is the desire to consume and the desire to feel important and or increase presence from within a given social sphere. What could we possibly have in common? Where can a conversation go if you can't think above the level of you? Where can anything go if you can't think above the level of you? You know, last night I was in a podcast wherein I was with, 5 other panelists, and we were, chopping it up. That was the first time in a while I've just done horribly, like completely horribly. I did better when I was drunk on my homegirl's podcast than I did last night. It was a weird and discombobulating experience, just sort of waiting to speak for a half hour, for like huge blocks of time, and taking all these perspectives and then try to say something to mesh with the discourse and demonstrate awareness for perspectives other than my own. And it was really weird and discombobulating. But the subject of the podcast was, on sexuality, human sexuality, right? And one of the things that I kept trying to reiterate was this point that, everything boils down to this need, this fundamental need to really separate and sort out all these ideals that govern how we interact with one another. All these ideals, they collectivize to form our respective identities, and nobody's sets of ideals match. Nobody's. Nobody believes the exact same things that everyone else believes. So you have all these individually guided people running on these inner stories, these collections of meanings that they've agreed to with themselves, which they expect other people to understand and also operate by means of. And they go around angry and bitter all the time because no one gets them. No one reads and understands their inner story. And then, even beyond that, no one proactively anticipates, and not proactively anticipate, no one is actively anticipating what they're going to do based on their internal narrative. So they get mad at other people like, why didn't you know I was going to do that? And then adjust your course accordingly so that I experience less distress moving forward. Right? That's basically what everybody in the world is mad at right now. Why can't you hear my inner story? What I tell myself about the world around me makes sense to me. How I see myself is legitimate to me. How I should be valued by everyone around me is legitimate to me. Word? Is that what it is? All right. Learn how to stop relying on your inner story, articulate that shit, and say it to people so that everyone can get in sync with your inner story, or at the very least, understand and respond to and sort of interact with where you're at in your inner story. Like, give us an opportunity to understand what's going on, as opposed to simply expecting us to adjust to information we don't have access to. But that's not how it works, is it? That's why every relationship fucking fails. People get mad because their mate is not anticipating and understanding and reading this script that they've completely fabricated from within themselves, which consists of series of meanings and beliefs they agreed to with themselves. Why aren't you honoring the contracts I made with me? Every fucking human disagreement boils down to that simple point. Why aren't you honoring the agreements I made with me? Which traces back to narcissism, which traces back to aggression and competition. The desire to make one person's inner story prevail over another's. I must make your personality yield to mine. Let's compete. Let's compete for authority. That's what it boils down to, isn't it? Look here, man. At the end of the day, I only want to associate with people who aspire to be more than slaves. You talk behind my back, you start all sorts of shit about me. Why? You're not the only one who's done it. You're not even the best to do it. I got people at the top levels of society trying to figure out how to break me down. You're not even remotely the best to do it. To aggress against me. Like there are some people who are really talented at what they do and who worked a long time at figuring out how to neutralize what I am, unfortunately to their detriment. However, at the end of the day, the only reason you dislike me, regardless of where you are in the world or what your station in life is because you think like a slave. Period. Slaves hate truth. Tell a slave you're a slave, and they'll get angry. They'll get mad. I'm not a slave. Tell a debt slave you're a slave. I'm not a slave. You're a slave. Tell a cultural slave you're a slave. I'm not a slave. You're a slave. Right? The desire to feel superior to others becomes this prison that they can't escape from. It's met with aggression. It's supported by aggression. It's supported by the desire to compete and or make their identities prevail over everyone else's. Cowardly ideologues. Aggressive betas. Uh-oh. Hey, we got brother Eric Trowbridge down here. Interesting. Brother Eric, what's good with you? Miss Candace, Ling, what's good with you? How you doing? Hey, you caught me live. Yeah, that's what it is. On Sundays, on Mondays and Wednesdays, between 7 and 8, I'm going to say that's how my podcast generally goes. But, it's like sometimes I get started a little bit late. It's always something that just is like, hey, Don, we're going to make sure that you are at least delayed by seconds. And a lot of times I got to take the hit for that. That's me. I could have organized that just a bit better. But still, I'm glad you made it to the podcast. Hopefully I'm making enough sense here. But, to the subject, slavery, like this mental slavery, the slave mind, it's too much. It's too much. It makes the world a miserable place to live. Just earlier today, I was reading in my timeline that this chicken spot that I frequented, before I went vegan again, often, who actually sold some of my desserts for me, it got vandalized, and I hadn't heard anything about it because usually when I'm online, lots of people are inboxing me, and it's like I have principles that I have to put out. So it's like, a lot of times I don't really scroll through my news feed like that. And I have certain rooms that I go to. So it's like, I be big shit talking in a lot of rooms and sharing ratchet memes because I have fun. But yeah, man, I saw that they went in and they vandalized this place. And the thing that really popped in my mind was that what a slave thing to do. What was that movie? Was it a Mississippi Burning or something like that? And the name of it's going to come to me before too long, but it was a scene in which the lawyer was talking, and he said something to the effect of, he was the white lawyer was saying that he grew up poor, and his dad, they lived down the road from a black person, and the black person had a mule and they didn't, and his father went out and killed the mule. His father went out and killed the mule because couldn't no nigger have anything better than them. That was what I thought of when I heard that somebody vandalized this man's shop. the slave mind. And it was a white man who did this to a black man from within the frame of the movie, you know. But the color of his skin didn't have anything to do with the fact that he thought like a slave. I have to be better than you. I have to compete against you. It's the mind of a broken individual. They're weak. I don't like cowardice. I don't like weakness. I prefer to deal with those who are strong. I respect those who are strong. Hey, what's going on, Miss Andrea? Hello, my friend. How you doing, girl? This is one of my longtime friends. Man, it's like we've known each other since, man, it has to be 3 or 4 years old. That's a long time. That's a long time. Wow. First of all, I hope everything is going well with you. You know, we spoke on Inbox, man, and it's like I'm glad to know that everything is moving in the right direction, and it's all love and respect. But yeah, you know, we have to think bigger. It's really easy to point fingers at the people who are trapped in the slave mind and say, "Look at you, you're bad, you're terrible, you deserve to be punished." Ironically, that's slave thinking in and of itself. But one thing that I like to do is try and help elevate people out of that broken way of thinking. Hey, man, this isn't a contest. It's not a competition. I'm not trying to beat you. I'm trying to elevate you. I'm trying to help you. I do that in everything that I enter into. I lead with generosity. I lead with compassion. I lead with honesty. I lead with all the attributes that are imbued to genuinely strong people. Why? Because if you're not showing someone how to be brave, and they've never seen a true example of bravery, then how can you expect it from them? I don't do all the chest thumping. I don't do all the rah-rah. I just step in and I try to make things better. I don't fanboy over people. I don't jock. That's one of the worst things about interacting with narcissists. Narcissists tend to mistake, and people of the slave mind, they tend to mistake you being good to them for you idolizing them because they want to feel important. They want to feel important, and they end up burning bridges in that way, assuming that you trying to be good to them is you idolizing them and wanting to ingratiate yourself to them. But you can't think in the way that they think. You can't fight. You're not going to beat the devil in a firefight. And if all the problems in the world are created by different people in different tiers of the social stratification system, operating from this slave mindset, you're not going to beat them by operating from the same mindset as they operate from. Now, are you? If you're a person with higher thinking, you have to bring higher thinking to that low level mentality there and help elevate it. How do I get you to stop being so scared? How do I stop you from being so shook and get you to start focusing on the power you actually have within you and that you have the ability to elevate and expand upon? How do we make you stronger? How do we make you better? How can I help you? When you're a genuine leader, when you have real leader attributes in you, your first inclination is always, how do we move this forward? If you have the authoritarian mindset, then the only thing you're thinking is, how do I benefit myself? How do I win? Slave thinking. How do I win? It's so funny. People at the top of society right now, they get to live experiences. People at the bottom of society, the only thing they give you is competition. You get sports. You get wage assignments, and the ability to compete within business frames and within business firms. You get the ability to compete. That's your payment. You get competition, they get the power. Which ironically is them competing against you, which takes it to the slave mind all over again. Lots of paradoxes in there, man. But that's how it works at a mechanical level. That's how it works at a mechanical level. Let me see. We got some more. Candace. I guess some stuff. Candace is like, so much strength and honesty. Absolutely, Candace. It is. It's like everything that I'm able to do is because of honesty. I practice honesty every day. And it's like, I don't mind being vulnerable and showing people my weaknesses, because it's like at the end of the day, the second I admit to them, they stop being weaknesses. Honesty. There's nothing worse than having a weakness that you're unwilling to face and deal with. It's a vulnerability. At any given point in time, anyone who learns about it, well, they're on your ass, aren't they? You got to be able to face yourself honestly and adjust. Get better. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to call Pampers LOL, right? Right, it's so long. It's so long. Jesus Christ. Man, it's like the years have gone. The years have gone. I just turned 45. That is insane. That is insane to me. Especially now that it's like, I'm eating clean again, man, because I definitely don't feel 45. Like it's so funny. I didn't realize how much my body had broken down through just the years of just not being exercising, but not eating proper. And I got a little flustered there, but it's like yeah. And it wasn't a whole lot of years that I did it, but it's like something that you learn is it doesn't take a whole lot of time, especially for how my body is built. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for bad things to get in you and to start just going to work, just taking stuff out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm glad that I kind of switched it around, at least for the time being, man. And it's like, I stick with it for as long as I can. Let me see. Sister Candace breaks in, strength in character, and also a very foundational strength. As in honesty is a strong place to move and operate from. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. It roots you. It roots you. Something that I learned, and hopefully I say this correctly. I was talking to my homeboy Medina many years ago, and we were talking about fighters. They're talking about fighters and people who are really, and it extended over to people who are really mentally disciplined, but it's like he was like, you can see it in the eyes. You don't train the body, you train the eyes. When you've been to that point, when you've been to your breaking point, and you honestly faced your breaking point, the look in your eyes changes. You can look at somebody and you can tell who's honest and who isn't. But when you get to a point of like honesty, wherein you're settled in what, how, and who you are, less of who you are, but in what and how you are, there's a calm that comes over you. There's a peace about you that's magnetic to people who are on the path to truth and honesty, and repulsive to people who aren't. At least that's my experience. I think that's a good point to sort of segue into how to escape the slave mind. You escape the slave mind by reasoning and honesty. You see, the slave mind, the slave doesn't want to think for itself. It looks to authorities to do the thinking for it. It looks to customs and trends to do the thinking for it. It looks to feelings and beliefs to do the thinking for it. When you think like a slave, you don't want to process information and reality using your God-given brain. You instead just want to experience good things, avoid bad things, and just coast. So you want things that benefit you and then bark at and get angry at things that don't benefit you and or that benefit others who you don't view as extensions of yourself. When you let your identity do the thinking for you, you behave like an aggressor parasite. It makes you scary. It makes you weak, frail, easily dispatched with. If all I have to do is dangle what you desire in front of you and or scare you into doing whatever I want you to do, you're not a person, you're a thing. A thing I use to satisfy a desire before dispensing with you. Practice reasoning and honesty. Develop this mind up here, and before you know it, you're going to be on the path to truth. You're going to be on the path to syncing up with reality, or what humans refer to as God. But if you stay in your inner story, you'll remain beholden to corruption. And you'll get more and more corrupt the more and more you dial into that narcissism, competition, and aggression. Yo, so I think we've got 41 minutes on here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up real quick. For those of y'all who stuck through the glitches in the beginning of the program, I do appreciate you. I don't know, well, obviously this crazy snowstorm is sort of making things a little wonky on this end, but I do appreciate your time and attention. For those of you all who know, y'all can catch me on these platforms. I'm obviously shooting this on Facebook Live right now. But, you can also catch me on Instagram. And I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. You can also catch me on YouTube. And there's a, not a hyperlink, but you can just copy the what do you call that? URL? I think that. And then also you can find me on Medium as well too. Also, if you guys get any sort of benefit out of what I'm doing and, you want to bless your boy with a little love here, you can always cash at me at Donnie King, or you can join the Patreon family at Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. All proceeds go to building this up to a larger platform. I want to reach as many people as I can while I'm still in this body, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here. So, yeah, just I've had people coming forward lately, and they've actually been stepping forward like, hey, this is just an appreciation for you. This is an appreciation for what you do. And you have no idea how it warms my heart, because it's like a lot of times I do this work without knowing that there'll be an audience. I don't know if there's going to be anyone on the receiving end. And it's not my job to guess or worry about who receives what I'm supposed to say. It's just my job to say it. I'm going to show up and do my part. So for those of you who tune in and give your boy some love and appreciation and do what you can to help me move this to the next level, I'm genuinely grateful. And I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Of course, that would be during my emoting. It would be a time where I would fumble over my words, obviously. But yeah, so I appreciate y'all, man. Yo, hey, Sister Candace came back in. A-ching-a-ling. Let me see. We lose the gift. Okay, we lose the gift of self-reflection by way of our interaction with others, and this is a true story. You're absolutely correct, Candace. We do, because when we're interacting with others, the majority of the time we're projecting to others as characters. We're trying to take our inner story and convince them of our inner story, because, for all intents and purposes, we want them to reflect our inner story back to us. We want validation. We're pretending to be these people. We're pretending to be these characters. We're pretending to be these characters, and more than anything, if you think like a slave, you just want someone to tell you that your story is real. You just want someone to tell you that you're not acting, and that's how the world really is, and that anyone and anything that disagrees with you must be wrong and must be destroyed. When interacting with others, we lose the ability for authenticity. We lose the ability for authenticity. We become disingenuous because we'd much rather have people validate and verify the characters we're pretending to be than we would be open and honest about how we are and what we're experiencing. Anywho, my folks, I appreciate you for tuning in with your boy. No, I don't know why you're doing stupid. I like to joke. I'm funny. I'm a funny person. But yeah, man, just all of y'all who chimed in tonight and who've been rocking with your boy, man, I appreciate you. I love you, and hopefully we can chop it up. Hopefully y'all tune into the next podcast, which is going to be Wednesday at 7 too. So it's your man. I appreciate you. Much love to you. I'm out.